The first big point I would make about prayer is that any desire or decision to pray, even if our faith is weak or we don't see the value of it, anytime we do that, it is itself a strengthener of faith, and it's a good activity. When people have said to me, I used to teach a little course on prayer on Sunday evenings here on campus, and some students would say, well, I don't know how to pray. I get nothing out of praying, can't use the words very usefully or anything. I would always say to those students, well, if you have the wish to pray, go down to the grotto and just sit quietly. Don't say anything. The psalmist says, be still and know that I am God. Just go down and be quiet. And that in itself is a gesture of prayer. That's a good thing. And the more frequently you do that, the more intense your prayer life will become, and the greater your faith will become. So if you put yourself in the situation of prayer, you are already praying. I think Lent offers us the opportunity of saying, I'm going to be more conscious that every day, in some small fashion, I'm going to remember God. Closely allied to this notion of remembering God is this idea that people bring up constantly, well, how do I know anybody's out there listening? How do I know whether or not prayer is actually beneficial? Maybe I don't even believe in God, or I have difficulties kind of conceiving of what God must be like. Well, the Christian answer to that question is to go back and say that no one knows what God is like, huh? The Bible says that God is unknowable in a sense, but if we wish to know what God is like, we can understand what God is like through the incarnation, through Jesus. If we don't know what God is like Jesus. Now, Jesus was a man of prayer. He prayed individually. We know this. The gospel says that he would go out very early in the morning before dawn to a quiet place and pray. He was also one who prayed in a community. He went to the synagogue. He was a practicing Jew. He practiced in the synagogue. He went to the temple. His prayer life is the prayer life of ancient Judaism. So we could pray in the spirit that Jesus prays. That also, I think, is a very important thing. And if we remember God regularly, we develop what is called the habit of prayer. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be elaborate. Jesus himself says in the Gospel, Matthew's Gospel, that don't pray as the pagans do, multiplying tons of words. If you pray, pray thus, our Father who art in heaven. That's where we get that prayer Jesus gives us as a model of prayer. But if we develop the habit of prayer, then it will enrich our lives. And I think Lent is a particularly good time that helps us to pray better.